In the previous episode, we saw how the idea of barter began. Humans learned that one person's surplus could answer another person's need. Something extra was no longer only something to keep or use. It could become a way to get something else. Now, barter becomes more visible. Imagine a world where you can only survive with what you can find, hunt, make, or carry. If you cannot make something yourself, you may have to live without it. For a long time, this was the reality of human life. But barter changed this reality. A sharp stone tool could become food. An animal skin could become protection from a cold night. Extra meat could become the return for someone else's work. This was not money yet. There were no coins, no official prices, and no clear rules accepted by everyone. Barter was a raw and practical answer to daily survival. But it changed the way humans looked at objects. An object did not matter only to the person who owned it. It could matter even more to the person who needed it. In this episode, we will look at how barter worked, why it helped, and why this useful system also carried a problem that humans could not ignore forever. In its simplest form, barter began when two people, or two groups, understood each other's needs. One side had something extra. The other side needed it. An animal skin that felt like extra weight to one group could mean survival for another group during a cold night. But one person's need was not enough. For barter to happen, the other side also had to want what was being offered in return. This made barter more than a simple act of giving. It required attention. People had to understand what others needed, what they valued, and what they were willing to accept. A stone tool might look ordinary to the person who made it. But for someone who could not make that tool, it could change daily life. So, barter forced humans to think in a new way. People were no longer looking only at what they owned. They were also looking at what others lacked. This may sound simple today, but it was a major shift in human thinking. Objects were becoming a bridge between people. Barter helped because it solved real problems directly. Ancient humans could not find everything they needed in one place. Nature was not equal. One area might have better stone for tools. Another area might have safer shelter, cleaner water, better hunting grounds, or useful materials. Because of this, what another person had could become the solution that nature did not provide. Barter filled that gap. When a group could turn its extra resources into something it needed, life became more flexible. Survival was no longer only a struggle against nature. It also became a cooperative effort between people. This opened a wider space for human connection. A person might need another person's skill. A group might need a resource from another place. A useful object could move from one hand to another and solve a problem that could not be solved alone. Through barter, humans began to understand something important. The answer to a need was not always in the forest, the river, or the open land. Sometimes, the answer was in another person's hands. In the age of barter, there was still no money. So, value is not clear the way it is today. There were no price tags, no exact numbers, and no common measure that everyone used. But this does not mean early humans had no sense of value. They knew that some things were harder to find. Some things took more effort to make. Some things became more important during cold, hunger, danger, or movement. A stone axe was not valuable only because it was made of stone. The right rock had to be found. It had to be shaped carefully. It had to become sharp enough to be useful. That required time, skill, and experience. Animal skin could feel ordinary on a warm day, but during a cold night, its meaning could change completely. Food might not feel special when there was enough for everyone, but when hunger came close, the same food could become far more important. So, in barter, value was not fixed. It changed with need, effort, time, and situation. Value was not a number yet. It was more like a balance that people had to feel and agree on. And for barter to work, that balance mattered. Barter was not only about objects changing hands. At its center, barter needed trust. When people exchanged things, they were not only risking the goods they held, they were also risking the relationship between them. If one side always tried to take more, trust would weaken. If one side gave honestly, but received a poor return again and again, the connection would break. This is why memory mattered in early trade. Long before written rules, people carried a living memory inside the community. They remembered who kept their word. They remembered who acted fairly. They remembered who helped in hard times and who made exchange difficult. This made barter deeply social. People were not only trying to meet physical needs, they were also building bonds, testing trust, and protecting peace inside the group. A successful exchange could make the next meeting easier. A bad exchange could create distance. So, barter was never only about food, tools, skins, or materials. It was also about reputation. It was about whether people believed they could exchange again in the future. Barter opened a powerful new path. But that path eventually reached a wall. The biggest problem was simple. For a trade to work, both sides had to want what the other side had at the same time. A person might need food and offer a stone tool. But if the person with food did not need that tool, the exchange stopped. Another person might have animal skin, but the toolmaker might want food instead. There could be need on both sides. There could be useful objects on both sides. But if the match was wrong, barter did not work. This was the weakness of barter. Not every object was useful to everyone. Some things spoiled quickly. Some things were hard to carry. Some things only mattered at certain times. As communities grew larger, this problem became harder to ignore. A system that could work between two people, or small groups, became much more difficult when there were more people, more goods, more skills, and more needs. Barter helped humans move forward, but it also revealed a new problem. Exchange needed more than useful objects. It needed the right match. Barter was a major turning point in human history. It taught people to look beyond what they owned and to see value through the needs of others. This was one of the first true sparks in the evolution of money. But barter was not perfect. It needed the right timing, the right object, and the right person. It could not always be stored for the future. It could not always be carried easily, and it did not always work between larger groups. As human communities became more complex, the limits of barter became impossible to ignore. And so, humanity began to move toward a new question. Can we find something that more people will accept? Can one object become useful not only for one exchange, but for many? Can everything become money? In the next episode, we will follow that question. Barter showed humans how exchange could work, but humanity was now ready to search for something more stable, more portable, and trusted by more people.